The fluorescent lights in Principal Anderson's office buzzed like angry wasps. 16-year-old Maya sat in the uncomfortable plastic chair, arms crossed, staring at a water stain on the ceiling. She'd been in this office before, but never for something this serious. This time she'd really messed up. "Do you understand the severity of what you've done?" Principal Anderson asked, his voice tired rather than angry. He'd been dealing with troubled students for 20 years, and Maya could tell he'd seen it all before. Maya shrugged, trying to look like she didn't care. But inside, her stomach twisted with worry. The spray paint incident wasn't even supposed to happen. It started as a stupid dare from kids she barely knew. Kids she was trying to impress because being popular seemed like the only thing that mattered. Now, looking at the photos of the graffiti covering the school's new gymnasium wall, she felt sick. "I'm calling your mother," Principal Anderson said, reaching for the phone. "Please don't," Maya blurted out, dropping the tough act. "She's at work. She just started her double shift at the hospital." The principal paused, his hand hovering over the phone. He knew about Maya's situation. Single mother working herself to exhaustion just to keep their tiny apartment. No father in the picture for the past 8 years. Free lunch program. The whole story was in Maya's file. "She works until 11 tonight," Maya added quietly. "If you call her now, she'll leave work and lose the pay. We need that money." Principal Anderson sighed and put the phone down. He pulled out a different form from his desk drawer, the bright yellow paper standing out against the stack of white documents. "All right, here's what we're going to do. I can suspend you for 2 weeks, which goes on your permanent record. That'll follow you to every college application, every job interview, or you can do community service for the entire summer. 60 hours, your choice." Maya felt relief wash over her, followed quickly by dread. Summer was supposed to be her escape, her time to hang out and forget about everything. But suspension? That would destroy any chance she had at getting into a decent college. Her mom dreamed of Maya going to college, being the first in their family to get a degree. "Community service," she mumbled. "Smart choice," Principal Anderson said, though he didn't smile. He filled out the yellow form with quick practice strokes. "You'll be working at Patterson Farm, starting Monday at 7 in the morning. 6 days a week. Mr. Patterson expects punctuality and hard work. Miss a day without a valid excuse and we're back to discussing suspension. Understand?" "Patterson Farm," Maya repeated. "You mean that old place on Route 9? That's like, in the middle of nowhere." "That's the one. Mr. Patterson specifically works with students doing community service. You'll learn something valuable out there." Maya wanted to laugh. Patterson Farm was a joke among the kids at school. They'd drive past it sometimes, seeing the old wooden fences and the ancient pickup truck parked near a weathered barn. The farmer himself was some old guy nobody ever talked to. What could she possibly learn picking vegetables and shoveling manure? That evening, Maya broke the news to her mother. Carmen Rodriguez came home at midnight, her nurse's scrubs wrinkled and her eyes heavy with exhaustion. Maya had been practicing what to say for hours, but the words still came out wrong. "You did what?" Carmen's voice rose, and Maya saw the disappointment that hurt worse than any anger. "Maya, we talked about this. We talked about making good choices." "I know, Mom. I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking. That's exactly the problem." "You weren't thinking." Carmen sat down heavily at their small kitchen table, rubbing her temples. "What am I supposed to do with you? I can't watch you every second. I'm working all the time just to keep us afloat. I chose community service instead of suspension," Maya offered, "so it won't be on my record." Carmen looked up, some of the anger fading. "Where?" "Some farm. Patterson Farm. I start Monday." "For how long?" "The whole summer." Her mother was quiet for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Good. Maybe hard work will teach you what I apparently haven't been able to. You're going to show up every single day, do exactly what they tell you, and you're going to learn something. Do you hear me?" "Yes, Mom." "And Maya, this is your last chance. Next time I won't be able to help you. Next time there might not be another option." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Maya nodded, suddenly feeling much younger than 16. Monday morning came too quickly. Maya's alarm went off at 6, and she groaned, burying her face in her pillow. She'd barely slept, anxious about what awaited her. Finally, she dragged herself out of bed and pulled on old jeans and a t-shirt. She stared at her closet full of carefully chosen outfits, the clothes she'd saved up for or begged her mother to buy. None of it seemed right for farm work. She grabbed her phone and designer sneakers, the ones she'd bought with 3 months of birthday money. If she was going to suffer through this punishment, at least she'd look decent doing it. The bus ride to Route 9 took 40 minutes, and Maya was the only passenger for the last 20. The city streets gave way to open fields and scattered houses. When the bus driver let her off at the dusty road leading to Patterson Farm, she stood there for a moment, wondering if she should just turn around and run. The farm looked even more run down up close. A faded wooden sign reading Patterson Farm hung crookedly near the entrance. The driveway was dirt and gravel, leading past overgrown bushes to a cluster of old buildings. Chickens wandered freely in a yard near the barn. Everything looked ancient and tired. Maya walked slowly up the driveway, her expensive sneakers already covered in dust. An old man emerged from the barn, and she assumed this must be Mr. Patterson. He looked exactly like she'd imagined, probably in his 70s, wearing faded overalls and a plaid shirt with the sleeves rolled up. His face was deeply lined from years in the sun, and his hands looked rough and weathered. He didn't smile. "You're late," he said simply, looking at an old watch on his wrist. I said 7. "It's 7:15. "The bus doesn't come out here very often," Maya started to explain, but Mr. Patterson was already walking toward a shed. He returned with a pair of thick work gloves and handed them to her without ceremony. "Put these on. We've got weeds to pull in the vegetable garden. Ground's already hot, so we need to work fast before the sun gets too high." Maya stared at the gloves. They were dirty and worn, probably used by dozens of kids before her. She thought about her manicured nails, the pale blue polish she'd carefully applied just 2 days ago. "Problem?" Mr. Patterson asked, his expression unchanged. "No," Maya said, pulling on the gloves. They were too big, but she didn't complain. "Good. Follow me." They walked past the barn to a large fenced area, where rows of plants stretched out in neat lines. Maya could identify tomatoes and maybe corn, but most of the vegetables were mysteries to her. She'd never really thought about where food came from before. It just appeared in the grocery store. Mr. Patterson knelt down beside the first row and pointed to the small plants growing between the vegetables. "These are weeds. They steal water and nutrients from the crops. You pull them out by the roots like this." He demonstrated, his weathered hands moving with practiced efficiency. "You work this row, then the next, then the next. I'll be in the greenhouse if you need something. Don't need much talking. Just work." And with that he walked away, leaving Maya alone with what looked like a million weeds and the rising sun already making her sweat. She looked down at her phone, thinking about taking a photo for social media, something sarcastic about her prison sentence. But her hands were already dirty, and somehow, the joke didn't seem as funny as she'd thought it would be. Maya knelt down in the dirt, feeling it press against her knees through her jeans. She grabbed her first weed and pulled. It broke off halfway, the roots still in the ground. This was going to be a very long summer. By the end of the first week, Maya's entire body ached in places she didn't know could hurt. Her hands were covered in blisters despite the gloves. Her shoulders burned from the sun even though she'd worn long sleeves, and her knees were permanently stained with dirt. The designer sneakers she'd been so proud of were completely ruined, caked in mud and chicken droppings. But the worst part wasn't the physical pain. It was the silence. Mr. Patterson barely spoke to her. Each morning he'd nod when she arrived, hand her tools or point to the day's task, and then disappear to work on other parts of the farm. No small talk, no encouragement, no acknowledgement when she finished something. Just the next task and the next and the next. Maya tried to complain at first. "This is so unfair," she muttered while hauling water buckets to the chicken coops. "I should be at the beach right now." But her words just floated away into the empty air, and Mr. Patterson never responded. Eventually, she stopped talking altogether. On her phone during the bus rides home, she posted photos with captions like "Day 5 of my torture sentence" and "Prison labor isn't this hard." Her friends commented with laughing emojis and sympathy, but as the days blended together, even that started to feel hollow. What was the point of complaining when nothing changed? The second week brought new challenges. Mr. Patterson taught her to feed the chickens properly, explaining the exact ratio of feed to kitchen scraps. He showed her how to check the fence line for breaks where predators might get in. He demonstrated the right way to water plants so the roots got deep moisture instead of just surface wetness. He never asked if she understood. He just showed her once, handed her the tools, and expected her to remember. Maya messed up constantly. She forgot to latch the chicken coop door one evening, and the next morning she arrived to find chickens scattered across the property. Her heart dropped into her stomach as she saw Mr. Patterson standing in the yard, surrounded by wandering birds. "I'm so sorry," she stammered, running toward him. "I thought I closed it, I really did." Mr. Patterson looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he simply said, "Help me round them up." They spent the next hour chasing chickens. It would have been funny if Maya wasn't so mortified. The birds scattered in every direction, squawking and flapping. She slipped in the mud twice, and once a particularly aggressive hen pecked at her hand when she tried to grab it. Finally, when the last chicken was back in the coop, Mr. Patterson latched the door carefully and turned to her. "Shortcuts today mean problems tomorrow, remember that." That was it. No yelling, no lecture about responsibility. Just 7 words that somehow hit harder than any punishment could have. Maya started paying more attention after that. She noticed things she'd been too busy complaining to see before. The way Mr. Patterson checked every plant in the garden each morning, looking for signs of disease or pest damage. How he always cleaned and put away his tools before moving to the next task. The careful notes he kept in a weathered notebook about planting dates and harvest yields. There was a system to everything, a rhythm that made sense once she stopped fighting it. One particularly hot afternoon in week 3, Maya was repairing a section of fence under Mr. Patterson's direction. The wood was old and splintered, and she'd already gotten 2 splinters in her fingers. Sweat dripped down her face and her arms trembled from holding the heavy boards in place. "Why do you even bother with this old fence?" she asked, frustration breaking through her usual silence. "Wouldn't it be easier to just buy a new one?" Mr. Patterson was hammering a nail into place, and he paused mid-swing. For the first time since she'd started working there, he actually seemed to consider her question. "Could do that," he said slowly. "But this fence has good bones. The posts are solid. Just needs attention and care. Throwing away something useful just because it takes work to maintain isn't wisdom. It's waste." He went back to hammering, and Maya stood there holding the board, thinking about his words. Was he still talking about the fence? By the 4th week, something strange started happening. Maya began waking up before her alarm. She found herself curious about whether the tomato plants had more fruit, whether the new chicks had grown. She started arriving at the farm 10 minutes early instead of exactly on time. Mr. Patterson noticed, though he didn't comment. He just started showing her more complicated tasks. How to prune tomato plants to encourage fruit growth, the proper way to turn compost so it broke down faster, which herbs could be planted together and which ones competed for resources. Maya discovered she actually enjoyed learning these things. There was something satisfying about understanding how everything connected. The compost fed the soil fed the plants fed people and animals. Nothing was wasted. Everything had a purpose. One morning she noticed Mr. Patterson examining a row of bean plants with a concerned expression. She walked over, curious. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Aphids," he said, pointing to tiny green insects clustered on the undersides of leaves. "They'll destroy the whole crop if we don't handle it right." "Should I get bug spray?" Maya asked, remembering the bottles of pesticide she'd seen in the shed. "Could do that," Mr. Patterson said, in that same slow way he had. "Or we could do it right." He walked to another part of the garden and returned with a small container. Inside were dozens of ladybugs. Natural predators. They'll eat the aphids, won't harm the plants, and won't poison the soil. Takes longer, but it's the right way. They spent the next hour carefully placing ladybugs throughout the bean plants. It was tedious work, and Maya's back ached from bending over. But watching the tiny red beetles immediately start hunting aphids was oddly fascinating. "Why do you care so much?" Maya asked. "I mean, about doing things the right way even when the easy way would work?" Mr. Patterson was quiet for so long that Maya thought he wasn't going to answer. Then he sat back on his heels and looked out over the farm. "My father taught me that how you do anything is how you do everything," he said. "You take shortcuts with your work. You'll take shortcuts with your word. You neglect the small things, you'll neglect the important things. Character isn't what you do when people are watching. It's what you do when nobody would know the difference except you. Maya felt something shift inside her chest. She thought about the graffiti, about how she'd done it because she thought nobody would find out it was her, about all the times she'd done the minimum just to get by, telling herself it didn't matter. I used to think working hard was for people who weren't smart enough to find easier ways, she admitted quietly. Like, why struggle when you could just coast? And now? Mr. Patterson asked. Maya looked at her hands, calloused and dirty, but stronger than they'd ever been. Now I think maybe I had it backwards. That evening, as Maya rode the bus home, she didn't pull out her phone to post sarcastic comments. Instead, she watched the farmland roll by through the window, thinking about roots growing deep, about taking care of things properly, about the difference between easy and right. Her mother noticed the change when Maya got home. You seem different, Carmen said, studying her daughter's face. Quieter, but in a good way. Mr. Patterson doesn't talk much, Maya explained, but when he does, it means something. What did he say today? Maya smiled slightly. That how you do anything is how you do everything. Carmen nodded slowly, recognizing wisdom when she heard it. I like this, Mr. Patterson. Yeah, Maya said, surprising herself. Me too. The next morning, Maya showed up 15 minutes early with a notebook of her own. If she was going to learn, she might as well learn properly. Mr. Patterson saw the notebook, and something that might have been approval flickered across his weathered face. Good, was all he said, handing her the work gloves. Today we're building a new chicken run. I'll show you how to measure twice and cut once. And for the first time since arriving at Patterson Farm, Maya actually looked forward to the work ahead. The afternoon started like any other. Maya was in the greenhouse, transplanting seedlings into larger pots when she heard the sound of tires on gravel. Visitors were rare at Patterson Farm. In her 6 weeks working there, she'd only seen the mail carrier and once a delivery truck dropping off feed supplies. This was different. Through the greenhouse's dusty windows, Maya watched a sleek black SUV pull up to the main house. The vehicle looked completely out of place among the old farm equipment and weathered buildings. It was the kind of car she'd only seen in magazines or driving through the wealthy part of town. A woman stepped out, and Maya's jaw nearly dropped. She wore a crisp navy suit that probably cost more than Maya's mom made in a month, and her shoes had that expensive shine that came from real leather. She carried a leather briefcase and walked with the confidence of someone important. Mr. Patterson? The woman called out, her voice carrying across the yard. Mr. Patterson emerged from the barn, wiping his hands on a rag. He looked exactly as he always did, old overalls, work boots, and a faded baseball cap. The contrast between them was almost comical. Miss Chen, he greeted her with a nod. Right on time. I have the contracts for the northern properties, she said, opening her briefcase. The developers are eager to move forward. They've increased their offer by another $2 million. Maya's hands froze mid-transplant. $2 million? She must have heard wrong. And the water rights situation? Mr. Patterson asked, his tone businesslike in a way Maya had never heard before. Resolved. The county approved your terms. You retain full control of the aquifer access across all 12 parcels. Ms. Chen pulled out several thick documents. I need your signature on these and we can finalize the conservation easement on the eastern tract. The easement stays at 500 acres? Mr. Patterson asked, flipping through pages with surprising speed. 500 acres in perpetuity. No development, no subdivision. Protected farmland forever, just as you specified. Maya tried to focus on her seedlings, but her mind was racing. Northern properties? 12 parcels? Conservation easements? Nothing made sense. This was supposed to be a small, struggling farm run by an old man who could barely afford to keep the place running. The conversation continued for another 20 minutes, filled with terms Maya didn't fully understand but recognized as serious business talk. Development proposals, property valuations, investment portfolios, tax strategies. At one point, Ms. Chen mentioned something about your holdings in the commercial district downtown, and Maya nearly dropped the pot she was holding. Finally, Ms. Chen packed up her briefcase and shook Mr. Patterson's hand. The transfer should complete by end of month. That'll bring your total acreage to just over 8,000. 8,000 acres. Maya's brain couldn't process the number. She thought the farm was maybe 50 acres, maybe 100 at most. 8,000 acres? That was... She didn't even know how much land that was, more than she could imagine. After Ms. Chen drove away, Maya stayed in the greenhouse, her thoughts spinning. She kept working mechanically, moving seedlings without really seeing them. When Mr. Patterson appeared in the doorway an hour later to check on her progress, she couldn't hold back anymore. "How much land do you own?" she blurted out. Mr. Patterson raised an eyebrow. "Enough! That woman said 8,000 acres. She did, but..." "I don't understand. This place..." Maya gestured around at the old greenhouse with its cracked panes and worn benches. "You dress like... I mean, everything here is so old and what?" Mr. Patterson asked, his expression neutral. Maya felt her face flush. "I thought you were poor. I thought this was just a small farm barely getting by. And that changed how you saw the work?" The question hit Maya like cold water. She thought about the past 6 weeks, all her assumptions, her initial contempt for this place. She'd pitied Mr. Patterson, thinking he was some old man struggling to keep a failing farm running. "I guess it did," she admitted quietly. "At first, anyway." Mr. Patterson pulled up an old stool and sat down, something he rarely did during work hours. "Let me tell you something about assumptions. When people know you have money, everything changes. They treat you different. They want something from you. They see the money instead of seeing you, so you hide it. I don't hide anything. This farm is real. These chickens are real. The work we do here matters just as much as any business deal." He paused, pulling off his cap and running a hand through his thin gray hair. "I bought my first acre when I was 19 years old. Worked 3 jobs, saved every penny. People said I was crazy buying land nobody wanted. What happened? I kept buying. A little piece here, a little piece there. Learned the value of patience and planning. Learned which land would appreciate and which wouldn't. Took me 40 years to build what I have." He looked around the greenhouse, his eyes softening. "This place, this small farm, this is where I remember why I started. This is where the work still means something beyond numbers on paper." Maya sat down on a bucket, her legs suddenly weak. "Why do you take kids like me? For community service?" "Because I remember being young and stupid," Mr. Patterson said bluntly. "I remember making mistakes. I also remember the people who gave me chances when they didn't have to." He looked directly at her. "Most folks with money, they forget where they came from. They build walls to keep out anyone who reminds them of their past. I do the opposite, but you never told me. You let me think, I let you learn," he interrupted. "Would you have worked as hard if you knew? Would you have respected the lessons if you thought I was just some rich guy playing farmer?" Maya opened her mouth to say yes, then closed it. Honestly, probably not. She would have seen him as fake, as someone who didn't really understand hard work. She might have resented him even more. "Money doesn't teach character," Mr. Patterson continued. "Work does. Responsibility does. Learning that shortcuts have consequences, that every action matters. Those lessons work the same whether you've got $1 or $1 million. How much are you worth?" Maya asked, then immediately felt embarrassed. "Sorry, that's rude. You don't have to answer." "More than I need, less than I want," he said with what might have been a smile. "But here's what I learned. The number doesn't matter much. What matters is what you do with it. I've got property all over this county. Some of it makes money. Some of it I protect from development. Some of it I lease to young farmers who can't afford to buy land yet. Some of it I hold because I believe in its future." He stood up, putting his cap back on. "My lawyer out there? She manages about 40% of my portfolio. Investments, properties, business ventures. You want to know why I trust her?" Maya nodded. "Because when she was 23 and just out of law school, I hired her to handle a small property dispute. She could have taken shortcuts. Could have pushed for a quick settlement. Instead, she spent 6 months researching water rights and environmental law to make sure we did it right. Didn't cost me a dime in billable hours. She did it because it mattered to her to do good work. And now she works for you. Now she works with me. Big difference. She's got her own firm, her own clients. But she remembers who gave her a chance when she was nobody." Maya thought about that. About chances and opportunities. About the person who sees potential in someone everyone else has written off. "I saw the mail the other day," she said hesitantly. "It was addressed to Thomas Patterson and it said, Patterson Holdings, LLC. I looked it up online last night. Mr. Patterson waited. You own half the commercial properties downtown. The new shopping center? That's yours. The office complex by the highway? Also yours. You're on the board of 3 banks and 2 investment firms. Been doing your homework. Why didn't you tell me? Maya asked again, needing to understand. Because telling you wouldn't teach you anything, he said simply. Working alongside you, that teaches both of us. I see who you really are, not who you pretend to be. You learn what you're actually capable of, not what you think you're limited to. Maya felt tears prick her eyes and blinked them back hard. I was so disrespectful when I first got here. You were honest, Mr. Patterson corrected. Disrespectful, yes. But honest about who you were at that moment. The question is, who are you becoming? He handed her a new tray of seedlings. These need to be transplanted before the heat of the day. Think you can handle it? Maya took the tray, her hands steadier than they'd been in weeks. Yes, sir. Good. When you're done, come find me at the main house. I want to show you something. He left, and Maya sat there for a long moment looking at the seedlings. Each one was small and fragile, but with the right care, the right environment, they'd grow into something strong and productive. Maybe she wasn't so different. Maya finished transplanting the seedlings with more care than she'd ever given to anything in her life. Each one got placed at exactly the right depth, watered properly, positioned to catch the morning sun. When she was done, she washed her hands at the outdoor spigot and walked toward the main house, her heart beating faster with each step. She'd never been inside Mr. Patterson's house before. All their interactions had happened in the barn, the greenhouse, or out in the fields. The house itself was a simple 2-story farmhouse, white paint peeling in places with a wraparound porch that had seen better days. It looked like everything else on the property. Old, worn, but solid. Mr. Patterson was waiting on the porch, holding 2 glasses of lemonade. He handed her one without a word, and they sat in rocking chairs that creaked with age. My wife picked out these chairs, he said, breaking the silence. 42 years ago. She passed 6 years back. I'm sorry, Maya said softly. She'd never thought about Mr. Patterson having a family, having a life beyond the farm. She was the smart one, teacher for 30 years. She's the one who convinced me to start working with kids doing community service. He took a sip of lemonade, said I needed to remember what it was like to be young and lost. They rocked in silence for a moment, and Maya realized this was the most personal thing Mr. Patterson had ever shared with her. Come on, he said, standing up. Want to show you something? He led her inside, and Maya was immediately struck by how normal everything looked. The furniture was comfortable but old. Family photos covered the walls. A kitchen table held a stack of farming magazines. This wasn't the home of a millionaire. This was the home of someone who valued comfort over flash. But then Mr. Patterson opened a door off the kitchen, and everything changed. The room beyond was clearly an office, but not like any office Maya had seen before. One wall was covered in maps, detailed property surveys with different colored pins marking various locations. Another wall held filing cabinets and bookshelves packed with titles about agriculture, land management, sustainable farming, and business. A large desk dominated the center with a computer that actually looked modern, unlike everything else on the property. This is where the real work happens, Mr. Patterson said, gesturing around. The farm outside? That's my heart. This room? That's my head. He pulled out a leather chair and sat down, motioning for Maya to take the seat across from him. He opened a drawer and pulled out a folder with her name on it. Maya's eyes widened. You have a file on me? I have a file on every kid who's worked here, he said. 37 in the last 12 years. Want to know what's in yours? She nodded, not sure if she actually wanted to know or not. Your grades before the incident. Straight B's, couple of A's in English. Teacher comments say you're smart but don't apply yourself. Mom works 2 jobs, no father present. Free lunch program. He looked up at her. Then there's my notes. Week 1, resistant, entitled, scared. Week 2, starting to pay attention. Week 3, asking questions. Week 4, showing initiative. Week 5, demonstrating genuine care. Maya felt her throat tighten. Week 6, ready for the next conversation, he finished, closing the folder. Which is why you're here. What conversation? Mr. Patterson leaned back in his chair. The one about your future. You've got 6 more weeks of community service left. After that, you're free to go. But I'm offering you a choice. What kind of choice? I'll pay you $15 an hour to keep working here through the rest of summer and on weekends during the school year. Real employment, not community service. You learn the business side of farming, budgeting, crop planning, market analysis. I'll teach you things most people don't learn until college, if they learn them at all. Maya's mind reeled. $15 an hour was more than minimum wage, way more than she'd expected. But that's not all, Mr. Patterson continued. You work hard, you learn what I teach you, you maintain your grades in school, and at the end of senior year, I'll pay for your college education. Full ride, whatever school you get into. The world seemed to tilt sideways. Maya gripped the arms of the chair, sure she'd heard wrong. What? You heard me correctly. But why? Why would you do that? Mr. Patterson stood and walked to the window, looking out at the farm. Because 30 years ago, someone did something similar for me. Man named Robert Chen. He saw potential in a stubborn young guy who thought he knew everything but actually knew nothing. Robert owned a small real estate company. He hired me, taught me the business, helped me buy my first real property. Ms. Chen, who was here today? His daughter. Robert passed 10 years ago, but I made sure his daughter got opportunities too. It's how these things work. Someone gives you a chance, you pass it forward. Maya felt tears streaming down her face before she even realized she was crying. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it. Talk to your mother. This isn't charity, Maya, this is investment. I invest in people I believe have potential. But it comes with expectations. Your grades stay up. You show up on time. You work hard. You mess up again with the law, the deal's off. Can you handle that? Yes, Maya said immediately, then paused. I think so. I want to. Wanting to isn't enough. You've got to commit to it. This is a choice that'll change your life, but only if you choose to let it. Maya wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why me? You said 37 kids have worked here. Why am I the one getting this offer? Mr. Patterson turned from the window and looked at her directly. Because you're the first one who stopped seeing this as punishment and started seeing it as opportunity. Most kids, they do their time and leave. They learn some things, sure, but they never really change. You changed. I watched it happen. I didn't think anyone noticed. I notice everything, he said. It's how I've survived in business this long. I notice who shows up early, who asks real questions instead of just going through motions, who starts caring about the tomatoes and the chickens like they matter, because they do matter, and you figured that out. Maya thought about the past 6 weeks, the blisters, the early mornings, the back-breaking work, but also the satisfaction of seeing plants thrive, of learning new skills, of becoming someone different than who she'd been. I want to say yes, she said slowly, but I need to talk to my mom first. Good answer. Shows you respect her opinion. Talk to her tonight. Let me know by Monday. They walked back outside together and Maya felt like she was floating. The farm looked different now. Not like a place of punishment, but like a place of possibility. That evening, Maya practically burst through the apartment door. Her mother was in the kitchen, still in her scrubs, heating up leftover rice and beans. Mom, you won't believe what happened today. Carmen turned, immediately alert to the excitement in her daughter's voice. What, is everything okay? Better than okay. Maya launched into the whole story. The lawyer's visit, discovering Mr. Patterson's wealth, the offer he'd made. She talked so fast her words tumbled over each other. Her mother listened silently, her expression moving from surprise to disbelief to careful consideration. When Maya finally finished, out of breath, Carmen sat down heavily at the kitchen table. This is real? She asked. He's serious about paying for college? He showed me his office, Mom. He has files on all the kids who've worked there. He's done this before, helping people. And what does he want in return? Hard work, good grades, staying out of trouble. Maya sat across from her mother. He called it an investment. Carmen was quiet for a long moment, and Maya could see her mind working through all the angles, looking for catches, for dangers, for reasons to say no. Mom, I know this sounds too good to be true, Maya said quietly, but I've been working there for 6 weeks. He's not creepy or weird. He's someone who believes in giving people chances. And if you mess up, then I lose everything. The job, the college money, all of it. Can you handle that pressure? Maya thought about it honestly. I don't know. But I want to try. I'm tired of being the kid who messes up. I want to be someone different. Carmen reached across the table and took her daughter's hand. You've already become someone different. I've watched it happen. You wake up without me having to drag you out of bed. You come home tired but satisfied instead of angry. You talk about learning things. So you think I should do it? Her mother smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. I think this is the chance I've been praying for. The chance I couldn't give you myself. But baby, you understand what this means? This isn't just summer work. This is committing to being better every single day. I know. Then yes, absolutely yes. Maya hugged her mother tight, both of them crying now. Through the window, the last light of day was fading. But Maya had never felt like her future was brighter. On Monday morning, she arrived at the farm 20 minutes early. Mr. Patterson was already in the greenhouse, checking on the seedlings she'd transplanted. They look good, he said without turning around. You did quality work. I talked to my mom, Maya said. I want to accept your offer. All of it. Mr. Patterson turned and extended his hand. Then welcome to the real work. It starts now. They shook hands, and Maya felt the calluses on his palm that matched her own. She wasn't the same girl who'd arrived here 6 weeks ago, angry and resentful. She was someone new, someone with purpose, and the best part, she was just getting started. 2 years had passed since that handshake in the greenhouse, and Maya barely recognized the person she used to be. Standing in the community center on a warm Saturday afternoon, she watched a group of teenagers shuffle in with the same attitude she'd once carried. Arms crossed, faces sullen, convinced this was going to be the worst summer of their lives. All right, everyone find a seat, Maya called out, her voice confident in a way that still sometimes surprised her. She was 20 now, finishing her second year at State University with a double major in agricultural business and environmental science. But today, she was back home for the summer, doing something she'd never imagined possible. The kids slouched into folding chairs, and Maya saw herself in every single one of them. The girl in the back with the expensive phone she kept checking. The boy trying to look tough but whose eyes showed he was scared. The quiet one staring at the floor, hoping to be invisible. I know what you're thinking, Maya said, moving to stand in front of them. You're thinking this is punishment. You messed up, and now you're stuck doing community service at some stupid farm program. You're thinking about all the ways this summer is gonna suck. A few kids looked up, surprised she'd said it out loud. 2 years ago, I was sitting exactly where you are. I'd been caught spray painting school property. Thought I was so cool, so smart. Really, I was just scared and angry and making terrible choices. She paused, letting that sink in. My principal gave me a choice: suspension or work at Patterson Farm. I chose the farm because I thought it would be easier. Was it? The tough-looking boy asked, his voice skeptical. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, Maya answered honestly. My hands blistered. My back ached. I ruined my favorite shoes. And the farmer who ran the place. He barely talked to me, just pointed at work and expected me to figure it out. Sounds terrible, someone muttered. It was, for about 3 weeks. Then something changed. I changed. Maya pulled up a chair and sat down, making herself level with them. I learned that shortcuts have consequences. That how you do small things is how you do everything. That work isn't punishment, it's opportunity. She had their attention now, even if some of them were trying to hide it. The farmer, Mr. Patterson, he turned out to be one of the wealthiest landowners in the county, owned thousands of acres. But he dressed in old overalls and worked alongside me every day. You know why? Silence. Because he knew something I didn't. That money doesn't build character. Work does, responsibility does. Showing up even when you don't want to, that's what builds the kind of person who actually succeeds in life. The girl with the phone raised her hand tentatively. So what happened? You just started liking farm work? Maya smiled. Not exactly. I started liking who I became when I did the work. Mr. Patterson offered me a real job after my community service ended. Taught me about business, about agriculture, about planning for the future. And when I graduated high school with a 3.8 GPA, he paid for my college education. Full ride. The room erupted in whispers. Kids sat up straighter, suddenly very interested. Wait, for real? The tough boy asked. For real. But here's the thing, it wasn't charity. It was investment. He invested in me because I proved I was worth investing in. I showed up. I worked hard. I changed my attitude and my choices. And now? Maya gestured around the community center. Now I run this program, Patterson Farm Youth Initiative. It's my job to give kids like you, like I was, the same chance I got. She stood and walked to a table where packets of information were stacked. Over the next 8 weeks, you're going to work at Patterson Farm. You'll learn sustainable agriculture, basic business principles, and most importantly, you'll learn what you're actually capable of. This isn't just about picking vegetables. It's about discovering whether you're someone who gives up when things get hard, or someone who pushes through. And if we do well, a quiet girl in the middle asked. If you do well, if you show real commitment, there are opportunities. Part-time jobs during the school year, mentorship programs, and for those who really excel, scholarship opportunities for college. Mr. Patterson has committed $5 million to this initiative over the next 10 years. That's money for kids who prove they want something better. Maya distributed the packets, watching the kids flip through information about the program. She saw hope starting to replace some of the resentment on their faces. I'm not going to lie to you, she continued. Some of you will hate every minute of this. You'll do your required hours and leave and never think about it again. That's your choice. But some of you, maybe just one or two, you'll discover something about yourselves. You'll realize you're capable of more than you thought. And for those people, this summer won't be the end of your punishment. It'll be the beginning of your future. After the orientation ended, Maya stayed behind to answer individual questions. The tough boy approached her last, hanging back until the others had left. This real? He asked quietly. The scholarship thing? Completely real. I'm living proof. What if you've messed up more than once? What if your record is pretty bad? Maya heard the vulnerability beneath his bravado. Then this is your chance to start building a different record. Mr. Patterson doesn't care about who you were. He cares about who you're willing to become. The boy nodded slowly and left, and Maya felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. This was her purpose now, taking the gift she'd been given and multiplying it. That evening, she drove out to Patterson Farm. Mr. Patterson was in his office reviewing property maps as usual. He looked up when she knocked, and she was struck again by how much older he seemed than 2 years ago. He was almost 80 now, moving slower, but his mind was as sharp as ever. How'd the orientation go? He asked. Good, 15 kids signed up. Mix of attitudes, but I saw a few who reminded me of myself. That's all we need. 1 or 2 who really get it. He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. I want to talk to you about something. Maya sat. Curious. Mr. Patterson pulled out a folder, much thicker than the one he'd shown her 2 years ago. I'm not going to be around forever, he said bluntly. Doctor says I've got good years left, but we both know time catches up to everyone. Mr. Patterson. He held up a hand. Let me finish. I've been thinking about legacy, about what happens to all this when I'm gone. My lawyer and I have been updating my estate plans. He slid the folder across to her. The farm, this 20-acre plot we're sitting on right now, I'm leaving it to the youth initiative. It'll be held in a trust, managed by a board, but you'll be the director. The program continues, funded by income from my other properties. Maya's hands trembled as she opened the folder. The legal documents were dense, but she understood enough to see what he was saying. The farm would continue helping kids long after he was gone. But there's more, Mr. Patterson continued. I'm also establishing a fund in your name, the Maya Rodriguez Scholarship Fund. $500,000 initially, with provisions for it to grow. You'll manage it, decide which kids get support, how much, for what purposes. I don't know what to say, Maya whispered. Say you'll do it justice. Say you'll remember where you came from and help others get where they're going. Always, Maya promised, tears streaming down her face. Mr. Patterson stood and walked to the window, his usual spot when he had something important to say. You know what I'm most proud of? It's not the money I made or the land I accumulated. It's this. It's watching you become someone who helps others become better. That's the only legacy that really matters. 3 months later, on a hot August morning, Maya stood in the farm's greenhouse with her first group of youth program graduates. 5 kids out of the original 15 had completed the full program with excellence. They stood in a circle, dirty and tired but glowing with accomplishment. What you did this summer matters, Maya told them. Not because you avoided suspension or checked off community service hours. It matters because you discovered something about yourselves. You learned you can do hard things. You learned that showing up and working with integrity means something. She handed each of them a certificate and a letter of recommendation she'd written personally. But for 2 of them, she had something extra. Envelopes containing job offers for the school year and information about scholarship applications. Later, after everyone had left, Maya walked through the farm alone. She checked on the tomato plants, now heavy with fruit. She fed the chickens, smiling as they flocked around her feet. She repaired a loose board on the fence, remembering Mr. Patterson's voice. "This fence has good bones. Just needs attention and care." Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "So proud of you, baby. Look at what you've built." But Maya knew she hadn't built it alone. She'd been given a chance by someone who believed in investing in people, instead of just judging them for their mistakes. Now it was her turn to be that person for someone else. She sat on the porch of the farmhouse in one of those old rocking chairs and looked out at the land. The same land where she'd arrived 2 years ago, angry and lost. The same land where she'd learned that punishment could transform into opportunity if you were willing to do the work. Somewhere out there, maybe sitting in a principal's office right now, was another kid making a choice: suspension or community service, easy way or hard way, stay the same or become someone new. Maya hoped they'd choose the farm. She hoped they'd show up scared but willing. She hoped they'd discover, like she had, that the hardest path often leads to the most beautiful destination. Because that's what Patterson Farm had taught her. Not just how to grow vegetables or manage land, but how to grow yourself into someone worth becoming. And that lesson, that gift, was worth more than any amount of money could ever buy. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Maya rocked gently in the chair, already planning for next summer's program, already dreaming of all the lives that could be changed. One kid at a time. One chance at a time. One transformation at a time, just like hers had been.